Chief Revenue Officer of Botdoc, Tracy Fox. Tracy, welcome aboard.
Hey, thanks so much, Jeff. Thanks for having me. Look forward to whatever we're going to chat about. Should be a lot of fun.
Fantastic, fantastic. So as I was preparing for our time today, Tracy, I was curious, how did you find Carl and how did you find Botdoc? What attracted you to this company?
Wow, that's a great question. I was sitting on a VC panel. This is kind of an interesting story, but I was sitting on a VC panel and Carl was actually raising money in some initial seed rounds. Mm-hmm. And I remember looking at his slide deck and he had a slide on there that talked about what he was going to use the money for, that he was raising. And there was a face blurred out, literally face blurred out on the screen. It said, "This is our next hire, which is VP of Sales / CRO. And this is what we're going to use the money for." And I had just sold my last company in 2015, and this is in the fall of 2017. And I said, man, that's interesting. And I'm just kind of in my mind, I'm thinking, okay. But at the same time, after we're done, we started vetting some of the companies that were pitching that day. And all of the, I call them geeks, all the geeks in the room got super, super excited. And they said, I said, "Hey, why are you guys getting so excited?" And they said, "Do you have any idea what that technology is capable of?" And I go, "No, tell me more." And the more they told me, I'm like, I think I need to go have a coffee with Carl. So Carl and I had a coffee. Probably more than anything, Carl's awesome. Love Carl, and I'm on board, and we're running hard. But man, it's been an amazing journey so far.
Yep. And there's a lot of passion and energy between you both, so that's very, very cool. So yeah. That led to Chief Revenue Officer. So what do you do on a daily basis? What does your day look like?
Yeah, great question, right? I mean, we're a startup. I mean, some startups are further along. I mean, Facebook's still calling themselves a startup, right? So, I mean, and we've spent some time in Silicon Valley, and I'm like, I don't know if you're quite a startup still. But I will tell you, yeah, I mean, I could be the Chief Revenue Officer today, and as I kind of chuckle, and Carl is the same mindset, we could be cleaning the toilet and be the janitor tomorrow, and who knows, it might be the CEO the following day. But as a startup, I think it's all hands on deck. You mentioned sports earlier. Yep. Carl and I both played college football. I went on to play professional rugby, but at the end of the day, we have that team mentality. It's like, hey, let's roll up our sleeves. If there's a problem, let's find the solution. And if there's a solution, how do we implement or execute the game plan?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I think that when you and I met, we were in Austin, Texas at the convention center, probably June of 19. And we had about a 5-minute conversation. And I think we both knew it at the time, but the question hadn't presented itself yet. COVID brings us this question, right? How do I transact business today like my customer sitting across the desk from me in a world where we got to socially distance? How does Botdoc do that?
Yeah, no, great question. Excellent question. So I think, everyone's digital roadmap looks a little different. Every fintech, every financial institute, every bank, and it may look a little different based on priorities and where everyone was going. But I will say this. With the pandemic, with COVID, and I don't know, we've been looking for some literature. There's some folks that are saying, I believe that everyone's digital roadmap got accelerated by 5 or 10 years. Yep. But digital priorities took a hard needle shift right, and everyone's digital transformation journey now has been accelerated or has quickened nonetheless. And so the ironic part, and you and I have had a couple of chats since then, but one thing that we started working on nearly 3 years ago was this very question and that you asked. And it's interesting because we're talking to Fortune 50, Fortune 100, Fortune 500, and all the way down to small and medium-sized banks and healthcare organizations, et cetera. They're not asking that exact question, Jeff, but what they are asking is the questions that surround that very thing, which is, man, now that everyone's remote, how do I transact business just as if they were sitting right here in front of me at my desk, and just as easily? Because anytime we add security to something, and that's what, at the end of the day, we're a workflow automation tool. We're a lot of everything, and we can talk a little bit more about that. But at the end of the day, we take cybersecurity very seriously, and we're a cybersecurity company at large. But the fact that when things get secure, they get super bogged down. And we kind of look at it like a child seesaw, one side being security, right, and the other side being convenience. And as security measures are driven up, right, convenience factors are being driven down. And what happens is the security side of the house says, hey, wait a minute, it's my butt if we get breached or we get exposed. And it's the operations side saying, listen, I get it. But if we make it any harder to do business, we're not going to have customers to do business with.
Exactly.
So what happens? Operations win. So we see that seesaw go the other way, where operations wins. They increase the convenience factors, but they're decreasing security, and that's actually unacceptable as well. Because at the end of the day, that comes at the cost of the consumer's data. Your data, all of those of you that are watching today, it comes at the cost of your data. It may not be exposed today, but at some point it's going to be exposed, right? I don't know if you saw the recent numbers, but the FBI released in April that cyber attacks were up 400%. And the number that came out in early October was that they were cyber attacks had increased 800%. So, man, we're literally, it's unfortunate, but Christmas came early for cyber criminals around the globe, and here we are. So, yeah, how's Botdoc doing that? We actually modularized our entire back end about 2 years ago. We got a lot of feedback from a lot of different customers, and they said, hey, why do you need to push or pull documents? Why can't you push and pull documents and data? And I'm like, wow, that's a great question. Carl and I just started to look at this. And they went on to say, they're like, well, if you can do that, why couldn't you just chat? And why couldn't you just e-sign documents, right? Electronically signed documents inside of a session, which led on to other things. And we can talk more about that as well. But so what we've really gone down this path, and we've created this encrypted container where we can actually transact business just as if you are sitting right in front of me here at the bank branch or right inside my financial institute. Because think about that. When someone comes into the branch or a financial institute, they say, oh, let me take a copy of your license. You go to the copier, you bring it back. Okay, hey, now sign some documents. Here you go. And then you make a copy of those, and here are those copies for your final, these final documents for your records. We're doing all of that securely encrypted. The nice thing is that, or the authentic portion, or the novel part of it, is that we're doing it without PINs, passwords, logins, accounts, apps, or software to download. And then after all the transactions are done, they actually are overwritten and deleted, or as we like to say, they evaporate.
I had an interesting experience. I have twin boys that are 15. I got to take them into a major bank 2 weeks ago on a Saturday and get them little checking accounts. Well, that whole process was painful. We had to set an appointment like a month ahead of time. And then the manual process of sitting in front of this guy who had this huge plexiglass pane between him and my kids, it took forever, right? And then there are solutions similar to ours. We do the loan process, make it digital, but there are solutions that do the account opening process from a digital perspective. You nailed it. It's about customer experience and it's about security, but so much easier when I can do it from the comfort of my home. I don't even have to go anywhere.
Yeah, there's some trends, macro and micro, that have really formed in this season as well. You're hitting it on the head. I hit a few of them earlier, but it's all about consumer experience. 89% of customers, or the consumers, or companies, are competing primarily on the basis of the consumer experience. 89% of companies. 80% of those companies went on to say that they're delivering this super exceptional experience. Well, surprise, surprise, only 8% of their customers actually agreed. And so even before COVID, even on Amazon, I'll pay $1 or $2 more because I know it's reproducible. I know how easy it is. I can track the package. I can do all of those things. After COVID hit, now everyone's gotten kind of a taste of what the digital future could look like. Yeah. Like you said, they can close loans from their home. In the healthcare world, in the medical world, patients are sitting at home in their robe, sitting on the couch, getting a virtual examination by the doctor. So mobile medicine and telemedicine are exploding. So there's a whole new norm, and I know that's kind of cliche, but the consumer will now start to demand that. Even after COVID passes over, whatever it looks like to get back to whatever normal may look like, the consumer is going to remember this season. And what they're going to say is, hey, why do I need to come into the bank branch or in to see you? During the shutdown, I was able to take care of that and sign those documents and do all this right from my own kitchen table at home. Great point, Jeff.
Yep. The human aspect, hey, man, it better last for a long time or we're both out of a job. But leveraging tools and technology to simplify that customer process, I think, is where we're all headed, as fast as possible. So if you may, tell us about one of your case studies. Tell us about one of your clients where you were able to implement Botdoc and revolutionize their world.
Oh, wow. Yeah, another great question. Man, we're working with a lot of large financial institutes, a lot of large healthcare institutes. Mm-hmm. I would probably choose Edward Jones. Edward Jones is one of our customers, but their initial use cases was to send out millions of tax documents every year. And a great use case. And now it's what we call push, or, you're sending those documents out. Well, after the shutdown and COVID hit in March, they called us in late April, and they said, "Hey, we have a problem. we are and everyone that knows Edward Jones, and Edward Jones is an amazing company, but they're not on the front end of the bell curve, right? They're not on the first, and they're not early innovators. They're not early adopters. They're kind of on the other side of the bell curve. But they called us and they said, "Hey, we're like the advisor around the corner." And they didn't have to explain this. This is probably me saying this because they are that's the perception, right? They are the advisor around the corner. Hey, let's just meet for coffee and we'll have that paperwork signed. We'll get this product or that 401k rolled over, or whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, they couldn't meet. They couldn't meet with any of their customers. And they're like, how do we transact business with all these people that we used to meet with face to face, that we have relationships with in all of our offices across the country and around the globe? And so they called us at the end of April, and they said, we need to be able to transact business, all phases of business, just as if that consumer was sitting right across from us, at the coffee shop or meeting up at, for dinner or lunch or whatever it may be. So, and this is an amazing story. And for those that are startups out there, and for those that might be watching that are established financial institutes or in other industries or other verticals as well. Here's a company that's not necessarily early innovator, early adopter, but they had a problem and they needed to solve it like yesterday. Mm-hmm. And so sure enough, within 2 months, almost to the day, by late June, they rolled live with the full standard product of Botdoc to be able to transact business completely. So now all 17,000 plus Edward Jones financial advisors in the company now all use Botdoc. It's inside their system built in. They use it day in and day out. So kind of a cool story about how innovation can go from 0 to 100 very, very quickly.
Very quickly. That's impressive. That's very impressive. Cool. And, now they're like, I can do this with my hands tied behind my back.
I don't know about that, but they can do it much, much easier. That's for sure. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So what's on the future roadmap for technology wise? Where's Botdoc going next?
Wow, that's a great question as well. So we get requests every day. And so everyone's like, well, hey, if you have a container and you've modularized the entire back end, that just means that we can build whatever capability we want right into that encrypted container as long as it has an API. And I think pretty much anybody and everybody has an API now. So as I mentioned earlier, we have the ability to push documents out. to an end user or reach out and pull them back inside this container. We have the ability to e-sign, right, inside that container, and also just to be able to chat back and forth. It looks like text, but it's actually inside the secure and encrypted environment, and you can send social security numbers, login credentials, whatever is needed inside that container. So we've been asked for a lot of other things, and first and foremost was payments, especially in the financial world. So imagine being able to, hey, I need a quick picture of your license and a selfie. Okay, now that I've identified who you are, now the next step is, hey, let's have you sign the agreement, right? I got everything I need as far as tax documents or financial documents to be able to move forward. Hey, now I need this agreement signed. Hey, you send that out. There you sign it right in front of you. Comes back. Hey, and now, hey, I'm going to send you all of those final signed documents for your records, and just hitting push and attaching those, and then out they go. So again, being able to do that all inside that encrypted container and automating that workflow management is completely. We have a lot of banks using it for new deposit account opening, because right now, once you have that client or that customer or potential customer, you have them on the phone, you want to take care of everything there. Anytime you ask the consumer to use something they don't use on a normal basis, that's where you see drop off. Yep. Every single financial institute, whether it's loans, new account opening, deposits, car lending, student loans, whatever, anytime you ask them to use something foreign, something they don't use on a regular basis, that's where it drops off. But to be able to send them a text or an email, open up an encrypted container, and do all this in the matter of seconds or minutes, it changes the game. So we've been asked for payments, and then imagine at the end of that, hey, how do you want to fund your deposit, your new deposit account, being able to do that via ACH or Venmo or PayPal or anything else. And then the other thing that we've really been asked for is video. Video will be interesting. It carries some challenges, some very strong challenges in itself. But initially, we're working with a lot of large healthcare institutes, and I don't know if this is public yet, but I'll throw it out there. We're building in, I won't mention the name because it's not completely public yet, but we're building into the largest electronic medical records system in the world. And we're going to start that here towards the end of the month. My point is that with virtual patient examinations, the doctors are using Zoom. We talked about this a little bit. Zoom made a decision over the summer not to go fully encrypted. 100%. We will choose to go encrypted because that's the world we live in, but it carries some challenges about how we deliver that, and then how we overwrite and delete to make sure that it is fully encrypted, not only in transit, but after the transaction is done, or the video or the video conference is done within that encrypted container. How are we getting rid of that? And once again, we overwrite and delete. So we're not just deleting, once again, we're actually overwriting it first. So even if a bad actor were to get in, all they would see was scribble, but we're going one step further, and we're actually deleting it, removing it completely out of the cyber environment. Fantastic.
So last but not least, you've been fantastic, giving us wonderful information as a thought leader in the industry, be it as an investor, be it as in the technology space. Would you give any advice to young professionals looking to make waves in this space that we live in today?
Wow, that's a great question. I can tell you this right now. I mentioned it earlier. We're talking to Fortune 50, 100, and 500 companies daily. And almost all of them are saying, we had one that was a large organization, and the CISO, this is the Chief Information and Security Officer, said 22 new digital initiatives were dropped on my desk this morning. So wow. my first bit of advice, if you're trying to find a solution to a problem, if it answers some of the most challenging questions that we're facing because of this remote world or other challenges that we all know to be true, if it falls into the digital space and it accelerates digital transformation, man, I would say get on that thing. And once you get there, if you're a startup company, maybe I'll go there a little bit, Jeff. But if you are a startup and you're getting a technology out, I know Carl believes this. I believe this. Carl's a mastermind at just walking through and strategizing, and that's what he did when he came out of the Air Force, is strategizing about how we get technology and innovation to the people that need it the quickest. He was saving lives after 2001 and the Twin Tower bombings. They needed to get stuff out in 6 weeks, not 6 months, or 6 months, not 5 years, right? So my point is this, is that with every startup that's out there, I would say this: get a MVP, get a minimal viable product. Don't add all the bells and whistles, because things will change. What you know to be true today and what you think people are asking you, the problems that you think are being asked to be solved, they'll probably change tomorrow and maybe even the next day. So get a base, get a core of technology, get an MVP, get it out there and get your feet wet, and then get feedback. Listen. Don't talk, but listen. That's why I can talk, but at the end of the day, when it comes to these types of things, I'm listening, and I take notes, good notes, and listen to what the customers are saying. Listen to the folks that are using that technology are saying, because they're the ones that can steer your ship and literally take you from being an average size software company or a company as a whole to being amazingly awesome and being able to build and scale at different proportions and great levels.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that MVP. We greatly appreciate that. That was a little plug for TurnKey Lender if nobody was paying attention. That's where we start our projects. That's like phase one, right? We have this huge, really fantastic platform that can manage the entire loan lifecycle. But let's get it up. Let's get it minimal viable product, and then let's grow. I love that, because you gain confidence, you see results, and you grow from there. And to your point, you got to listen.
Yeah. Amen. Right. That's awesome. I will tell you this. I sat on a panel a couple of years ago in Huntington Beach, I was listening to a panel, and they had some OCC. They had the Feds were there, the Fed Reserve. There were several high-power folks on, and there was one banker, and the question was asked, hey, where do you start with innovation inside of a smaller organization or even a large organization? She's like, don't recreate the wheel. She said, take the fundamental tasks and challenges that you deal with and the redundant workflow management processes that you work on day in and day out, and automate them and deliver a great and exceptional consumer experience with those day-to-day tasks. Keep it simple, but deliver an exceptional consumer experience. And that's where you need to start when you're going to implement innovation within your organization. Now, it carried over with me, and I still remember it today.
I love it, man. I look for and long for soapbox moments on this show. So that was fantastic. Thank you, Tracy.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. It's an honor and a pleasure. If any of our audience or attendees today have any questions for TurnKey Lender, please feel free to reach out to myself or others within TurnKey Lender. And if anybody has questions for Tracy and Botdoc, please reach out. Tracy, we're going to have you on again. We're going to talk about this integration you're doing to the largest healthcare provider. This is going to be cool stuff.
Well, hey, thanks for having me. Humbled and honored that you'd have me on, Jeff. And yeah, look forward to the next call.
Thank you very much. Everybody have a wonderful day. Be well. Thank you.